who may dislike what you're saying. It's better to get the degree, go make a lot of money, and then give a major donation to the school and get the professors who discriminate fired. That's my personal view of the situation. So, what can you do? Success is the best revenge. Be highly successful in your chosen field of endeavor and speak out loudly on behalf of virtue.
Thank you.
So you claim that your second virtue is that you want to be able to speak without getting punched in the face, right?
Yeah, I'm big on that.
Okay. How do you respond to Trump condoning violent behavior?
Trump is a horrible human being. I mean, if you haven't been following me, I'm the guy who goes on national television and calls Donald Trump a smoking garbage heap of human debris. I mean, I really think Trump's a bad guy, and it's why if it comes down to a general election between Trump and Hillary, I will stay home, or I'll vote third party. I'm a never Trump person. I will not vote for Donald Trump. He's a personal authoritarian. He doesn't care about policy. He doesn't care about conservatism. All he cares about is the glorification of Donald Trump and the Trumping of America. And I will never vote for a person who takes my ideology and treats it like Hannibal Lecter, cannibalizing it and then wearing its face around like a mask. I'm not going to do that.
So you spoke a little bit about decisions, which, yeah, especially in college, we understand the difference of decision making. My question is, you were raised in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
Where did you grow up in Los Angeles?
Burbank in North Hollywood.
Okay. And what high school did you graduate from?
I went to a private high school.
Called?
It was called Yeshiva University of Los Angeles, private Jewish high school.
Do you know the demographics of the high school?
Upper class. And wholly Jewish. It was a Jewish high school.
Yeah. 91% white, I believe, if not higher.
It's not, I mean, just statistically, it's not possible for it to be 100% or higher. But beyond that, Jews are not all white, just so you know. In fact, half of Jews are Middle Eastern.
I'm not saying that it's 91%. I'm not talking about whether the Jews are not.
I'm married to a non-white Jew.
Okay.
Right, she's Moroccan.
So, and you went to a couple different colleges?
Mm-hmm. Well, I went to one, and then I went to law school, yeah.
Did you have to work in high school?
Let's see, did I have a job in high school? No.
Okay.
No.
And did you put yourself through college?
Yes.
Fully?
I paid my own way in college.
Good for you. Do you have any kids?
Is this going anywhere, or at the end you bring out my family and this is where is your life? My parents made a lot of very good decisions to give me a better life. I hope to make very good decisions to give my child a better life. I hope that you would personally make very good decisions to give yourself a very good life. Would you? Well, this question has now gone on longer than speech, so if you would like to get to the question mark, I'd be happy.
Sorry, you kind of interrupted me, so I'm trying to remember so I can say it clearly so you can understand what I'm trying to ask.
We're still here. Go ahead. Well, then it wasn't worth mine.
In the beginning of your lecture, you said in passing, you said to disregard the last 50 to 60 years of United States history.
No, I said that institutionalized racism, Jim Crow, ended in the 1960s.
Okay, well, building off that, how do you expect to address today's issues while so easily dismissing the events that led up to today's climate?
So every history has impact on individuals, for all individuals. The question is, what do we do now? Right? Do we create discriminatory government policies that hurt when they're supposed to help? Or do we set a level institutional playing field with equal law for everyone, which is the ideal? The problem is this. I mean, you can pick any minority group in the United States, and most minority groups in the United States have had negative experiences at the beginning in the United States. You know, I don't like playing identity politics, but the fact is that there was a time in the United States when people of my ilk, people of the tribe, we were not welcome in country clubs, right? I mean, 70 years ago, not that long ago, 70 years ago, you know, my extended family was being murdered in Europe, right? 100 years ago, my family was getting here, and well, 1908, 1907, they were getting here, and they had literally nothing and didn't speak the language. and they were treated badly. I mean, this is not unique. History is a nasty place. The question is, what are you going to do now to rise above that? And the only way for people to rise above their history, the only way to rise above the challenges that their parents and grandparents face, is for them to make individual good decisions. And what I see from the left is excusing people for making very bad individual decisions on the basis that history has been unkind. So if you're willing to agree, how about this? If you're willing to agree with me that that people should make individual good decisions, like don't have babies out of wedlock, right? And there's no white man with a gun forcing a black guy to get a black girl pregnant and then leave her. It's not happening. Okay, these are people making individual bad decisions. Okay? If you're willing to agree with me that individuals ought to make individually good decisions, and that we ought to foster people making individually good decisions, and that individual responsibility is the key to encouraging people to make those individually good decisions, then I'm happy to talk about as much history as you want. But if history is being used as an excuse for people to make very bad decisions and then complain about the consequences of those decisions, I'm utterly uninterested.
Okay, no, if I could just
sure.
question. There have been things throughout history that, regardless of the person's own actions, have not been able to been rewarded like whites have. And if you look at things like, I'm sure you're well aware of the GI Bill during World War II, how blacks, general infantrymen, were not able to get the same benefits.
Yeah.
So how can you say with the advantages of white people being able to accumulate wealth and the benefits throughout time, how can you say that hasn't put black people today at a disadvantage because of that?
It has put black people today at an initial disadvantage, but that does not mean that the rules by which they play are different than white people now. Okay, so the fact is that some people are born poor, and put race aside for a second, some people are born poor and some people are born rich in America. Right? We can acknowledge this. Some people are born poor and some people are born rich. That does not mean that, number one, the poor people have a right to go to the rich people and take away their money, because that's called theft. And second of all, it also does not mean that making individual good decisions does not allow the poor person to become rich. There's tremendous income mobility in the country even still. And so the idea is, if the idea is that your grandfather, your great-grandfather couldn't go to college because of the racism in the GI Bill after World War II, and that's why you flunked out of high school, I don't buy it. I don't buy it. You know, make good decisions, you will get a better result. It doesn't mean we all start in the same place. We don't. None of us start in the same place. Some of us are smarter, some of us are dumber, some of us are taller, and some of us are shorter. You know, that's the reality of life. That's just how the universe is. The question is what we do to better ourselves. And if the idea is that you get to take money from people who were not involved in your oppression in the first place in order to rectify something that happened to great-granddad, then we can play this game of historic grievance all the way down the line.
Okay. And if I could just ask one more
Sure.
question, would that be all right with you? You talk about social mobility. I think that's very important. It's what helped build this country. A lot of people of color are living paycheck to paycheck, and allows for very little room to move upward.
Yes.
How would you address that?
By less market regulation, by less regulation in housing, for example, let people build more housing, because that's what drives the price down, better supply of housing. By less government regulation and rent control, which leads to less supply of housing. By allowing businesses to start up and hire people without all of the licensing fees and taxes that are associated in the state of California, for example. With that, by getting rid of the minimum wage, because because the minimum wage puts half of the people who could get those jobs out of work. Right now, you put the minimum wage up at $15. College grads will be making the minimum wage, and all the people who are 17 jobs, they want to start working their way out of poverty, they will not get those jobs. No one's going to pay a 17-year-old kid to flip burgers. Right? It's not going to happen. So what you need, less regulation allows for more economic freedom, which is why in the past, when you had less regulation, you saw more social mobility. Social mobility slows as government sticks in the gears of the economy. This is why the inner cities, for example, areas that have been governed by Democrats have very little social mobility. You see permanent poverty, generation after generation, because no one is starting a business in the inner city because of regulations and taxes. This is what happened to Detroit. Right? Detroit got completely cleaned out. Detroit was the industrial heartland of the United States. Through government subsidies, regulations, and high tax rates that confiscated property and wealth from the people who were generating it, all the businesses left. They raised the taxes again because they felt like they still owed people their money, so they raised the taxes again. More people left. They had no tax base. And so now Detroit is a center of permanent poverty and what looks like a zombie aftermath.
And this will be the last question.
Hi, I'm Steve.
Was there more to you leaving Breitbart than the Michelle Fields mess?
No.
That was it?
No, it was you know, as I said in my public statements at the time, and I won't say more for legal reasons, but as I said at the time, I believed that she was not treated properly by her employer, and for a very, very political reason, and I didn't feel that was right, so I took off.
Thank you.
All right, and I have one last question.
Sure.
If you don't mind me asking, who will you be supporting in the 2016 presidential election?
Well, when the primaries get here, I will be voting for Ted Cruz. You know, assuming that Donald Trump hasn't called for a riot of some sort and the United States hasn't burned down and all the rest of it. So, you know, Ted Cruz, my rule about candidates is I vote for the candidate who is most ideologically aligned with me. The minute he becomes non-ideologically aligned with me, I move on to a different candidate. So Cruz is the most ideologically aligned. It doesn't mean he's a perfect candidate. There are a lot of flaws with him as a candidate. He you know, speaks like a Baptist preacher, which is not the world's greatest campaign strategy. You know, he speaks like a constitutional lawyer. He doesn't tend to make moral arguments. He tends to make efficiency arguments. You know, he's got a lot of flaws as a candidate, but his belief system is very much aligned with mine. And so he's, you know, assuming that everything goes forward as it currently is, I will vote for Cruz. If you know, Cruz is out, then I'll vote for any of the other Republicans who are still in, which I assume is delusional John Kasich. Over Donald Trump. For the life of me, if John Kasich doesn't get the vice presidential nod, I don't know what in the world he's doing. The man is off his meds if he's just sticking around for no reason whatsoever. It's pretty incredible. But yeah, so that's my view of the presidential election. And you know, when this whole thing started, I was very optimistic about the way this presidential election was going to go. Now that it looks like it may come down to Trump versus Hillary, which to me is Satan versus the Antichrist, then, you know, my choices have been significantly limited because I can't pull the lever for either of them. Thanks so much. I appreciate it.